Something was wrong in that house, terribly wrong. What started as flickering lights and faint whispers soon spiraled into full-blown terror for Jennifer Patterson and her children. This isn't some secondhand ghost tale whispered around a campfire. It's a chilling, documented case from Evansville, Indiana, captured in journals, audio recordings, and the haunted eyes of those who survived it. When Jennifer Patterson moved into a modest house in Evansville, Indiana, she had one goal in mind: to start fresh. A hard-working single mother, Jennifer just wanted a peaceful place to raise her children. The house wasn't big or fancy, but it felt like a new beginning. Quiet street, decent neighborhood, and enough space for her little family. It seemed perfect, at first, but things didn't stay peaceful for long. It started small, so small that Jennifer didn't even think twice about it.
You couldn't ever really tell what they were saying, but you could tell that they were having a conversation.
A spoon left out when she swore she had put it away. Lights flickering just as she entered the room. The TV turning on by itself. But maybe it was just a faulty remote. After all, she'd been under a lot of stress lately. New job, new home, new responsibilities. Surely it was all just in her head. But then, the house started to feel different. At night, when everything should have been calm, there were noises. Footsteps on the stairs, faint knocking from inside the walls, whispers that seemed just out of reach. At first, she blamed the wind, or maybe the old pipes. But her children began waking up crying, saying they'd heard voices. One of them pointed to the corner of their room and asked, "Who's that man?" Though no one was there. Jennifer tried to stay calm. She reminded herself that kids have wild imaginations. Maybe they were just adjusting to the new place. Maybe it was all just nerves. But the strange occurrences continued. Doors creaked open by themselves. Objects disappeared, only to show up in strange places, like the toaster found under the couch, or her keys inside the freezer. The temperature in the house dropped without warning, even though it was the middle of summer. And the worst part, the feeling. A heaviness that clung to the walls, like someone was always watching. It followed her from room to room. Sometimes, she could swear she saw something in her peripheral vision, a flicker of movement, a shadow darting down the hallway. But when she turned, nothing was there. Jennifer wasn't sleeping, neither were her children. Everyone in the house seemed tense, on edge. Arguments started over the smallest things. The dog refused to go into the basement, growling at the door as if something was behind it. Eventually, Jennifer couldn't ignore it any longer. She began writing everything down. Every flickering light, every strange noise, every chilling moment her kids described. She wanted to track the patterns, and patterns began to emerge. The activity peaked around 3 a.m. The worst places were the basement and the children's room. The dog always reacted before anyone else did. At one point, she finally said out loud what she had been too afraid to admit. "This is not my imagination." Desperate for help, Jennifer turned to the people she trusted. She spoke to friends who were sympathetic but clearly skeptical. She contacted a therapist who suggested maybe the stress was causing her to see things that weren't really there. But that didn't explain why her children were seeing them too, or why her dog was acting the way it was, or why her house was always so cold, so heavy, so wrong. As a last resort, she reached out to a local priest. He came to the house, offered prayers, and performed a blessing. For a moment, it seemed like things might settle, but that hope didn't last. In fact, things got worse. The very night after the blessing, the house erupted in new activity. Louder, more violent, more terrifying than before. It was almost as if whatever was there had been challenged, and now it was angry. Jennifer had tried everything, but the nightmare was just beginning. Whatever was haunting the Patterson home was no longer hiding in the shadows. It had stepped out, loud, violent, and terrifying. The strange noises and flickering lights were now the least of Jennifer Patterson's worries. What once felt like a spooky mystery was quickly becoming a waking nightmare. It began with bruises and scratches. Jennifer's children would wake up crying, showing red marks on their arms and legs. Jennifer herself once woke up with deep, burning scratches down her back, as if something with claws had attacked her while she slept. She had gone to bed just fine. No sharp objects, no rough sheets. And yet, the injuries were real, painful, and completely unexplained. Then came the physical force. The children began saying they felt like they were being pushed, not tripping, not stumbling, but actually shoved by something they couldn't see. One day, Jennifer was walking down the hallway when she felt a cold, invisible pressure slam into her shoulder and throw her into the wall. At that moment, she knew without question, something was in that house, and it didn't want them there. Objects no longer just disappeared, now they were flying. A picture frame shot off the wall and smashed inches from where her son was playing. A kitchen chair tipped backward with no one near it. Doors slammed shut so hard they cracked. The activity wasn't just random anymore, it felt angry, targeted. Jennifer began hearing growling sounds, sometimes so deep and guttural that it made her blood run cold. At other times, it was whispering, not just sounds but words, her name, over and over, Jennifer, Jennifer, in a voice that was not human. And then the apparitions started. She saw a tall, dark figure lurking in the corners, never moving, never speaking, just standing there, watching. Her children described a small girl who sometimes appeared in their room, pale, with a blank stare and lifeless eyes. The girl never spoke, never moved, but her presence filled the room with dread. The children refused to sleep alone. The dog wouldn't even enter their rooms anymore. At this point, Jennifer knew she needed proof. She set up cameras in the hallway, in her room, and even in the kids' rooms. She left audio recorders running at night, and the evidence she captured was horrifying. Doors opening on their own. Whispering voices were captured clearly on playback, unseen footsteps, and worst of all, the growl, deep and unnatural, right next to the microphone. But it wasn't just the recordings that scared her. It was the way the activity changed once the cameras were there. The entity knew it was being watched. Sometimes it seemed to mock her. Lights would flicker directly at the lens. Objects would move only when no one was looking. It wasn't just haunting the house anymore. It was playing with her. Friends stopped coming by. They didn't know what to say. Some didn't believe her. Others believed her a little too much and wanted nothing to do with it. Jennifer felt completely alone. She was losing sleep. She was growing paranoid, checking every corner, jumping at every sound. Her kids were scared, and she was falling apart. Desperate, she reached out to a local paranormal investigation team. They came in with tools, EMF meters, infrared cameras, spirit boxes. From the moment they stepped inside, the team knew something was wrong. The energy was heavy. One of the investigators said they felt sick the moment they entered the hallway. They picked up cold spots, areas where the temperature dropped by 10 or 15 degrees in a single step. The EMF readings spiked in the exact places Jennifer had described in her journal. During their visit, a book flew off the shelf. A door slammed. One of the cameras caught a dark figure crossing a room, but there had been no one inside. The team agreed. This wasn't just a restless spirit. This was something malevolent, something intelligent, and it had no intention of leaving on its own. They began blessing the home, using holy water, prayers, smudging rituals, anything to bring peace. For the first time in months, Jennifer felt like she wasn't fighting alone. But deep down, she feared it was already too late. By this point, the Patterson family had reached a breaking point. The hauntings were no longer just terrifying, they were dangerous. The lead investigator, after reviewing all the evidence, the voices, the attacks, the sheer intensity of it all, shared a chilling theory. This wasn't just a ghost. Whatever was in the house might be something darker, something demonic. Jennifer wasn't religious, but even she could sense this was beyond any ordinary haunting. It didn't just want to scare them, it wanted to break them. With growing concern, the team contacted a priest and a spiritual advisor. After hearing the details and reviewing the recordings, both agreed. This house needed more than a blessing. It needed a full exorcism. The ritual was scheduled for a weekend when the children could stay with relatives. Jennifer stayed behind, determined to face whatever had taken over her home. When the exorcism began, the house reacted immediately. The air grew thick and cold. Lights began to flicker, then burst overhead, raining bits of glass. The priest walked room to room, reading scripture and sprinkling holy water, while the spiritual advisor burned herbs and prayed. Then came the moment no one could forget. Jennifer collapsed to the floor, screaming in pain. Her body arched unnaturally, and claw marks appeared on her arms right before everyone's eyes. A deep, guttural growl echoed through the house, caught clearly on one of the audio recorders, even though no living person had made the sound. The team stopped the ritual briefly, checked on everyone, and then pressed forward. The entire exorcism lasted hours, but as the sun began to rise, something shifted. The heaviness lifted. The house grew still, and just like that, it was over. For the first time in months, the house was quiet. Jennifer sat in the living room, exhausted and shaking, but no longer afraid. The investigators packed up, stunned but relieved. In the days that followed, the silence held. No voices, no shadows, no bruises. Jennifer began sleeping again. Her children laughed and played. Life, somehow, started to feel normal, but the damage was already done. Jennifer sold the house a few months later and moved to another town. She didn't want to take any chances, even if the activity had stopped. No clear explanation was ever found. No records of murders, no hidden graves, no traumatic history linked to the land or house. It remained one of the strangest cases the team had ever seen. As for Jennifer, she chose not to hide from what happened. Instead, she began sharing her story quietly at first, then more publicly. She spoke to others who had experienced hauntings, offered support, and warned them to trust their instincts. She doesn't claim to have all the answers, but she believes deep down that what happened to her family was a kind of spiritual test, or a warning, or perhaps something much harder to define. This wasn't just a ghost story, it was a battle for survival. For Jennifer Patterson and her family, the haunting blurred the line between psychological collapse and something truly supernatural. The bruises were real, the screams were heard, and the fear, unshakable. Investigators and spiritual leaders couldn't explain it fully, and neither can Jennifer to this day. Was it all a terrifying coincidence, or did something darker take hold of that house? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Suspense Room for more true crime mysteries that keep you up at night.